I'm going to go out on a limb and say that we're probably live. I can't tell.
It just started.
That is correct.
We don't know.
This is shocking stuff, man. We're alive, and we're all here. So...
Yeah.
We did it.
Yes. So, all right, let's do this. So, first of all, welcome to this thing that we call MythBrigade. It's a bunch of geeks basically getting together, doing tabletop role-playing games. As Steve mentioned earlier, there's probably the occasional genitalia joke, but it's primarily about gaming. And yeah, so we're getting together for a new series. We do various games, and this one is about Kult Divinity Lost. And it's a horror role-playing game where you kind of exist in this like decaying facade of this sort of world that underneath is an alternate reality, and there's demons and archons and things that pretty much want to, pretty much terrify and consume and all that sort of shit. So there's hospital noises in the background. That's pretty awesome. We'll get to that.
That's the ambiance.
We will get to that. Yeah, but today, today and for this series, we have a kind of an even mix of sort of novice players, some of which have never played an RPG before, tabletop RPG like this certainly, and some seasoned veterans as well who have played with CJ. So that means that they must be good at surviving. So I'm really excited, and I'm really kind of excited to see where this goes. We're going to go through character generation individually. So we'll do sort of one-on-one sessions so we can figure out what sort of secrets each character has. But in the meantime, I thought it would be good to get together. Let's meet the cast and sort out who those real people are. And then I want you guys to help me figure out what kind of fucked up story we're going to tell. So we'll talk about that while we're drinking wine and responding, hopefully, all the dick jokes in the chat. So let's start out. Let's go with. I'm just going with the order of the overlay, which I guess is first. What, Mike? Let's start with.
Yep, that's me.
Let's start with Mike. What's going on, man? Who are you?
Me.
Who
oh
even
man,
are you?
I am Mike. I am gamer, aspiring voice actor, video game streamer, platinum grinder. I stream weekly over on the Slightly Salted Squad
Platinum
channel.
grinder?
Platinum grinder, yeah. So a platinum is the full accomplishment trophy for a PlayStation game. And so the idea is on Monday nights, I stream through video games and I complete them to the best of my ability. Throw them away and start the next one. I'm a bit of a completion whore.
Nice. Do you have that tattooed anywhere on your body? Completion whore? Anywhere?
Yes, but not on camera.
Good.
So if I win the game, maybe I'll show you.
That's awesome. So you went through the name of your streaming group a little slow. Could you just hit that one more time with the URL?
Yeah, absolutely. It's twitch.tv/Slightly Salted Squad. We do group streams on Sundays. We do weekly news and gaming on Wednesdays. And then I do the Platinum Grind on Mondays.
Amazing. Well, we're glad to have you. And I'm sorry to interrupt your grinding. I don't know that you'll complete this one. You may die.
Oh, man. Yeah. I very well may.
So next up is Steve. So Steve, welcome. That is a fantastic assortment of things you have. I'm like drawn to what's there. I want to know what's on the shelf.
Bric-a-brac.
Is there a wig? Is that a wig up there?
Yes.
All right.
At least several.
God, yes. Okay.
It's almost the weekend.
So tell us about yourself, man. Where do you come from, and what possessed you to join this nonsense that we're about to do?
I'm a programmer and illustrator in Orlando, Florida. I know everyone but Nancie, and now I do. Hi, I'll wave at your picture on the screen too. Wait, I'll do the Brady Bunch thing. Did that work?
Yeah, it is. Yeah, it did.
In 12 seconds, I guess. So anyway, I've always really liked the fantasy genres and the horror genres, and I had tried role-playing games back in like high school, and they weren't really. They weren't done well when I played, so it wasn't as immersive.
That was
as
like you paused because you're like, I'm not going to say something mean. I'm not going to say something mean. Yeah,
it was like a war flashback. Like they weren't very good.
I got like the 1,000-yard stare. My eyes just sort of split off. It was fantastic. it was something to where at that point, based on the skill level of all those involved, it was something that required a lot more imagination than somebody promoting it and going for the narrative and going for the storyline and trying to push that. It was more of a roll this dice, you lose. Like, well, my dude's dead now. Okay, cool. What a great day I'm having skipping school again.
The
first game master I ever played with, he would get mad at his brother who played with us as well, and he would just destroy us and then stomp out of the room and be like, just tear up your character sheets and like go hide in his room. That was my first, and I was like, is this the way this goes? He would allow us to make like 7 characters, and he would just mow through them when he was mad or aggravated or if he had to poop. It was really I share that, brother. So hopefully we'll do better here. I love your demon juice, by the way.
It's demon juice, buddy.
What's in there?
Made with real demons, so you know it's fresh.
Yeah, freshly squeezed, local and artisanal.
Demon milk.
And low carb.
Okay, well that's good.
Get behind that.
That's good. That's good.
Keto straight out of hell. Awesome. Well, welcome, Steve. And I heard that you're pretty good with a crayon. Is that true? Can you do some things with?
At times, I do like to doodle. I am hoping to be able to contribute that for our campaign. So.
Yes, and for the Tides of Nurgle one for sure.
I take commissions. I even draw in meetings, and I will leave Post-it notes that are derogatory on people's desks if I don't like them, and if I like them.
Love it.
What's bad though is he doesn't disguise the art. Yeah, he doesn't disguise the art, so you look and it's like, I know who did that, and you're like, oh, that's me. Yep. You didn't see me do it.
He did this.
No, it was a commission. This fucking was a commission.
Fantastic.
At least I've been in a meeting with him, and he's handed me a picture of me delivering the meeting to him. And that's what you were doing.
Awesome. Well, so what you have a Twitch channel as well. I have seen you doing like polished Photoshop crazy stuff that makes me jealous. Is that just / Steve Nedley on Twitch?
Yes, it is. I can put it in the chat, link in the chat and everything. And but I actually plan on putting some stuff that we have coming up for the MythBrigade there too.
He's going to do some special work for those of you who play on that campaign. You'll get something from me in the mail. I can't wait. So yeah.
Me either.
Awesome. Well, welcome. We are glad you're here, Nancie, welcome. What are you doing? Why are you here? What possessed you to do this, aside from me bugging you that you need to be an RPG nerd?
Well, yeah, aside from you bugging me, I've actually never really gotten into the role-playing aspect of, the games. I mean, even out of World of Warcraft, I've been playing since 2005, and I don't really get into it that way. So I do have a theater background, so I really want to try and see what this is all about. So this is going to be an amazing learning experience for me. So I'm here because I'm ready to roll.
That's amazing.
So,
and
let's do it.
So like you've been playing that long in WoW. So are you one of those like 20-foot tall glowing people that I can't I'm like terrified of, and they just like running around?
No. I actually play on a free server I was telling you about. So yeah, I'm on Warmane, but it's you go to level 80. But I play a druid, so balanced druid all the way.
I never made it past like level 25 because I don't wander around and I'm like trying to talk to people and like, oh, there's a farmer. I want to go and see what the farmer has to say.
Are you one of the ones that don't read the quests? You just keep going.
Yeah, I just follow the little quest director thing. Yeah, that's amazing. Well, that's cool. So last but not least, and I just have to say this is a commitment like I've never seen. So CJ is joining us from the hospital. Everything's fine, which is awesome, but this is a testament to the fact that he'll never miss an episode. He's about to go into the operation room. He's going to get a head transplant. It'll be fine. CJ, man, how are you? So tell us about yourself. Why are you here? What's your background with gaming?
Well, I'm here to to experience the famous Jason Jones storytelling, from what I've heard. My gaming background goes all the way back at like 30 years now. 28 years. I started out at Magic the Gathering, jumped into D&D pretty quickly, and been playing D&D ever since. So typically I'm a DM, and my whole campaign, don't tell any of my players, revolves around trying to kill them each game, every session.
CJ, that's not as much of a secret as you think it is.
Yeah,
We
it's
figured you
not.
out a long time
No,
ago.
there's a support group and everything. If you go on Reddit, there's like a whole section for people who have been decimated by your awful. I've had to literally console people that you've killed. They're like, I just died last night.
Show me on the character sheet where CJ touched you.
So it's my campaigns are like Game of Thrones styles, where I let you get addicted to a character, and then I kill you.
Yes,
So, yeah.
that's awesome.
Right, Mike?
All right, I'm afraid now.
Yeah,
Right,
so our
Mike.
current campaign right now has been going on since January, and I'm the only one of the four of us that's still alive.
How much
Everybody else has had
how
to
much did you
reroll
have to
at
pay?
least.
You're like the equivalent of farming gold in WoW. You're like farming to stay alive. Sweet.
Oh, yeah.
So yeah, I think that the Jason Jones role. You realize the last episode of the Tides of Nurgle, we spent the majority of the episode talking about a fat guy who was mad because he didn't have any more muffins. So that's actually a
Been
true
there.
story. Yeah, it's a true story. I'm anxious to see what Steve does with this guy. I really am. Okay, so cool. So I'm glad you're all here.
Well, I got a reference. Oh.
Yeah, exactly. So like I said, we'll go through the process of character creation and kind of building that up. There's going to be some stuff around the rules, but this is really all about horror. I want, though, as I put the campaign together, I'm not going to run something off the shelf, something that really, you can kind of just go and see elsewhere. So I want to craft it together. So I had a few things I wanted to talk about that will help me create a story that will pretty much fuck up your sleep. So the first one, the most obvious one, when. So Kult is typically like a modern day, could be future, I guess it could be kind of backported to an older time, but it really thrives in the now. So I wanted to get your feedback. When do you want the story to take place? So think about the 80s, the 70s, which would be just weird. Everybody would be bell bottoms and those aren't scary.
Far out.
Exactly. Now or near now, like what do you guys think?
Personally, I'm a big fan.
80s.
Ooh,
Okay.
80s.
Yeah.
I don't remember the 80s very well.
I can tell you all
I
about it.
don't either, but hey, it sounded good.
I listen. I'm not judging. I'm thinking personally, I like the idea of very near future. So a little bit more technologically advanced, but more apocalyptic. I'm really on a Cyberpunk 2077 kick right now. So
Nice.
that's
Okay.
kind of like the first thing that comes to my head.
Okay. So kind of near future in 1980s. And Nancie, why do you say in the 80s? Quirky.
Good music?
Yes.
I don't know.
No, I think that's right. I think there's some dark
Let's
ass
see.
new age stuff that we could, when we're in post production, that we could really kind of bring in. Not to mention that we could all go
Yeah, I
get
have to
glamour
think about
shots
it more.
with the lasers behind us. I like that. All right.
The thing about
like
big
that.
hair is just not going to work for me.
Stick my head out and something. I'm pretty good at that.
I love the idea of the 80s, and I'm going to throw this out there too in chat and such. Like, what do you think? Is it the 80s? Is it near future, kind of post-apocalyptic? Like, somebody really pissed off Iran. I don't know who that'd be. Steve, what are you thinking, man? What period of time?
I actually would like to second the 80s thing. I kind of like the whole, it was sort of the emergence of like the club culture. For as much as there was like great music, crazy happy disco things, there was also Tony Montana
Cocaine.
backwood, back dealing, that sort of thing.
I mean, come on.
Yeah, and a massive part of this game is going to be the twists, the darkness, I don't know. When I think 80s, I think things were a little seedier than the Saturday Night Live sort of thing. They were
Yeah.
also
It was like Miami Vice. Everybody was on cocaine. There was RoboCop. There was like this sort of
yeah.
toxic
And
Avenger.
in this case, there's a summoning circle and a whole bunch of scary shit. So
This is true. I spent much of the 80s. There was this video store around the corner from my house called Specs. And we had a membership. I was so proud of this shit, man. And two things. I learned how to hack a cable box. I think that doesn't matter. I can tell you that now. So I could watch show yeah.
the statute of limitations is gone.
That's- Watch the Cox Cable guy's gonna bust through and be like,
down to the roof.
yeah, we told you it was
We
illegal.
got him now.
But yeah, so watching these gory ass like Hellraiser and sort of other Clive Barker type movies, and then B horror movies like Class of Nukem High and stuff like that. So yeah, I get that. Okay, so it's coming down to
Killer
CJ.
Clowns from Outer Space is one of my favorites.
Oh yes, What was it? Surf Nazis Must Die or some shit like that. The actual surfing Nazi zombie guys.
Yeah, absolutely.
Mike's like, oh my god, I'm glad I did. Yeah.
Yeah, I know. Hey, whatever. Yeah.
CJ, man.
So near future, huh?
It's coming down to you, buddy.
It's all about Alf. So 80s.
Done. Decided. Okay.
Oh,
1980s
Right.
wins. An Alf reference. Oh god, that was like the worst part of my childhood, having to sit there and watch out my parents and them looking at me like, what the fuck is wrong with you? And I was just like, Alf, he eats cats and stuff. Okay, so we know when.
It's a euphemism.
Yeah, so somewhere in the 1980s. What about where? So are we talking a city setting, somewhere near enough that you could sort of draw from actual, experience, New York or Philadelphia or Ocala, who knows?
no.
Yeah, exactly.
80s Ocala, the smell of citrus is everywhere.
Yeah.
I'm kind
Or
of feeling rural. Someplace remote, maybe?
okay,
I don't
so
know why I'm
like,
getting that sense.
are you thinking like, God, was a movie where the Wrong Turn, where they wind up with like the crazy cannibals or whatever in the middle of North Carolina, kind of remote? Is that
Yeah,
it? Okay.
yeah. I think that would be great.
Well, they give me a chance to play my banjo, and for you guys, I haven't.
You
Oh,
have one.
I'm gonna mix up the
squeal like
order.
a pig.
I'm gonna mix up the order here. So, CJ, what do you think? So we've got, we got Deliverance on one hand. What do you think?
Yeah. Squeal like a pig.
I don't know how the environment works in Kult yet. So typically, I would stick to like a city.
Okay. Yeah.
So, just because I don't know how travel works or how the RP works for that.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And it's what's great is it's generally theater of mind, and I mean if you can imagine buying a train ticket or a taxi cab or anything like that, you got it covered. And this is where we'll start out. That's a great point, is that you may not wind up staying in the city. You could wind up in the middle of Kuwait or something, who knows, or dealing with some sort of missile crisis or something. Good. So city, we have the opposite of city. Mike, what do you think, man?
I'm honestly a big fan of city. I think when you guys mentioned 80s, I think like these long brown trench coats and the rain and the collar pulled up and you're sort of running across the street with the cars swishing by, trying to go from place to place.
Yeah.
And interacting with the darker parts of the city where the facade and the front part of the city is people happy and dancing and drinking milkshakes or whatever the hell you guys did in the 80s. And the back corner places are the more...
We made you.
We were just
I mean, that's
developing our
not wrong.
lactose intolerance with all of our milkshakes, Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, I like the idea of the city. I think it gives you a much more playground to have this sort of like front of house, back of house facade and play the darker parts where you can kind of also see the more light and more surface level interactions.
I love it. Okay, so we got 2 for city.
Yep.
We have 1 for not city. Steve's gonna say something weird like, "I would like it to be in a village or a tree house. I would like it to all take place in the tree house." Steve, what the fuck, man? Where are we going?
I would love to add some sort of insanity to it, but I really like the idea of the city, so I'm going to go ahead and push that one just because of how many options you have. Outside of every city is a rural area. You know what I mean? You have the option of going somewhere to suburbia, to whatever, because this is a narrative. There are methods of getting there as a group or individually and that sort of thing. So I like how dense the options for interactions are in that. So
I like that.
I'm gonna vote city.
Okay, so we're going with 1980s some city or multiple cities or who knows, at least starting out.
Miami.
Yeah, God, no. I just went through Miami coming back from vacation. Miami, no thanks. Rather Ocala. No. Okay, so Next up, just to cross this one off the list. So Kult is really dark. It has a tendency to deal with subject matter that is extremely sort of draw the line that you shouldn't cross, and then probably drive about a half a mile on the other side of it. So what I want to establish early on is particularly given that we've got kind of a mixed group here, what is cool and what is not in terms of subject matter. For example, I'm not good with racist stuff in any form. You won't find it in my games, and I would leave a table if that shit was used, even though it certainly existed in the past, right? So that's like we don't talk about this. So I just want to just ask you in general, are there any other topics that we should avoid? Because I mean, you've been asked, and you may have a table leg sticking out of your ass, like after the first adventure, be like, oh, I never told you, but I hate table legs in my butt. What have you done? Yes. So okay, starting with the obviously most easily offended here, Steve. Are there any? are there any Steve boundaries?
Just buy me dinner afterwards. It's fine.
These Matos says butt stuff, so we'll
name it.
I mean,
Now, honestly, I'm fairly okay with everything as long as it's related to the narrative. I'm not prudish in any way. I don't think there's anything that would come up from what little that I've seen about these campaigns that would be that absolutely horrific beyond your most extreme horror movie. And
yes.
Seeing as I love that genre, I can't imagine you're gonna be like, well, this one's set solely in CJ's lower intestine.
Oh,
I don't think we're gonna.
Well, that's what the city was gonna be. Was all the probiotic city where all the probiotics
keys in here.
Didn't you guys see Osmosis Jones? This is all taking place right here.
Okay.
Thanks for the follow, Composite Sketch. That's pretty cool. Who's that? Part of the site. Oh, that's a newbie. That's awesome. Good. Okay, so Steve says it's fine. We can get gross. The chat either is all about butt stuff or wants us not to talk about butt stuff. So we'll decide that here in a second. So CJ, what about you, man? Anything that we need to worry about diving into too deep?
Just no like small children, baby stuff.
Ooh, yeah. Yep. Good point.
I agree with that part.
Babies are always cute. I will tell you that I'm not going to rule out the possibility of a 2-year-old that has just straight black eyes and is really mad unless you get it a sandwich. We're going to bring that up later.
That's fine. That's fine.
No killing babies.
Wait, what?
Yeah, no killing babies. No punching babies in the face. Nothing like that. Got it. Okay. Nancie?
Yeah, let's keep it above the net.
That's... that wasn't... no, I'm definitely in agreement with that. I think that, the whole baby, with the whole, the human trafficking stuff going on, it kind of freaks me out. So that's kind of a subject that I would like to push away for now,
Excellent. Yeah, this is good stuff. Well, these aren't things that would come up, and I'm glad, right? That I'm just thinking, am I sick enough that I would... It's, now, I may have the main villain turn out to be a baby who is at the head of a human trafficking ring.
As long as they're in charge and not like participating in the ring, then I think we're okay.
Yeah.
Right. No. Yeah, that's fine.
Yeah.
I'm selling adults. I'm selling accountants.
So yeah, those of you who happen to watch the stream later, this is a really important part, I think, of creating one of these campaigns, because if you're doing it right, you're pushing boundaries. You're getting into the gore. You're getting into the sort of really sacrilegious stuff, whether you believe in it or not, and you don't want to piss people off in general that are kind enough to spend their time with you. Mike, you're the last one, so we don't want to talk about bacon.
No, please, more bacon.
No.
Actually, being the father of a young daughter, that was really my big thing, is any violence toward children. They can absolutely participate, but no gratuitous violence towards children. And then obviously I second the racist thing wholeheartedly. It's unnecessary and it doesn't have any place.
Yeah. So I love the chat says racist baby traffickers is definitely off the table, and you're right. That we'll leave that off.
That's fair.
Yeah, I think that's important. I think kids are inherently creepy, but violence toward them in any way, you can have them as sort of that fleeting image in a story. But yeah, you don't want to be chopping them. Good. Okay, so with that out of the way, and I won't forget, particularly around all of Steve's, let's talk about what freaks you out. because I do need to know this.
Okay.
Otherwise, I'm not going to be able to get the story right. I'm going to start with Nancie because she's like, well, there's a long list of shit that freaks me out. So let's go. What really?
Well, let's see.
messes-
Spiders. That's a huge one. No fuck. No spiders.
Oh, you're dead.
I can't. I can't watch anything with torture. Like, I haven't seen any of the Saw movies. I just can't do it. I can't do it. So those would be the two top of my list that I wouldn't be able to.
So like a Phillips head screwdriver just like rammed under the nail so it pops off, that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, if you guys want to give me nightmares for the next 2 years, then we can do that. But
That's what we're hoping for. That's what we're hoping for.
they have medication for that.
They do. It's called alcohol.
Yeah. America. Mike, I know you're mostly fearless, but what are some things that just kind of mess with your head?
So mine, I think, are a little bit much less tangible. So something that really freaks me out is something that can harm me, but I can't either defend myself or harm it back, or something that makes me look crazy and I can't convince other people that I'm sane. You know what I mean? Like that sort of like lingering voice, like, guys, there's something here. And not being able to explain that in a way that gets people on board with me, really just like, I don't like it.
Yeah. So you've probably have dreams about this, right? Like where you're helpless to get everybody, you're seeing some sort of entity or a monster or some shit happen and they're all looking at you. Yeah, that's messed up.
We went deep. Yeah. Thanks for just climbing right in the old noodle there. But yes. Yeah.
Man. So his ideal because both of those things are kind of just core elements to the lore behind the game. So sorry about your sleep. I highly recommend, Tylenol PM or, whatever.
Therapy. Therapy's good.
Yeah, therapy too.
Steve, what freaks you the hell out?
I'm a massive fan of,
Are you peeing right now? You're like so deep.
I like
It's the demon.
I'm thinking, I'm trying to figure out how to explain it because basically sort of all right, everyone's traditional imagery of like demonic elements and everything is red and they have little horns, but I like the Dante's Inferno visions. I like the ones that are twisted and corruptions of if your vice is lust and avarice and all these other things, then you were twisted and you were molded and shaped
like
by this, and you have
horrible
all these very, very visual,
like distended genitalia and like these tortured kind of
Well, as you say that, my genitalia is distending, so yeah.
I wouldn't have known.
Jesus.
You're not showing it.
There it is. There's the joke. You called it 20 minutes ago.
Yeah, the demon juice is making. So Chad, I think, has picked your secret. The demon juice is distending your genitals. That's not what I meant. I meant these demonic visages, right? Or these creatures with these horrible pustules and things.
Yeah. And things that are just unnatural, and the traditional things that you write off in like the horror movies, but later on you still won't look in the mirror when you brush your teeth or something, or when you shut the light off. You hurry to bed.
Yes.
That thing that gets under your skin and lingers versus traditional horror, like Boo. I don't care about Boo. Like Mike said, I like the psychological. What was that?
Yeah,
I've never.
The jump scares are going to be hard.
What will I just see? Oh, it was probably my imagination.
Yeah. The jump scares. Sorry, there was a little delay. I think I talked over you. I didn't mean to do that. The jump scares are going to be hard to achieve on here, and get the right scary. You're not going to be scared of that. So.
But you're able to crawl into our head, and we're not really sure what's going around the corner. Like, okay, we're going to stop you there, and we're going to move on to this next thing. And you're like, am I dead or not?
Yes, yeah, I think I can pull that off. And I know that I'm learning these things about you, CJ. Who I know one thing he hates, but I'm not going to share that. But what scares the shit out of you? I don't think there's much. I think it might be like having to eat lots and lots of carbs, or what?
Cockroaches.
Really?
Does that count?
This is true. And it's not like a sissy fear. Like it's like a horrid, gut wrenching scream sort of thing.
Ooh, all right. So and it's just like something from when you were a kid, you encountered them, and it's just been with you ever since, right? Like it's just deep inside of you. Wow.
Oh yeah.
So that'll be I can summon up some cockroaches for you. Climbing over the sort of the sweaty, like sort of pus leaking abomination that's inhabiting Steve's nightmares. I can do that. Yeah, sorry. Good. So, I think I have some ideas based on just that alone.
You bastard.
What are your favorite horror movies? Things where that you can just remember watching them and being like, "Oh fuck, that's scary," or "Oh man, that's so incredible." One of the two. You pick. Who wants to go first?
I'll go first. One of my most favorite recent movies is actually something that might turn me on to. I think it's called Annihilation. It's sort of this sci-fi hybrid thing, and there's a creature there who is this massive juxtaposition of noise and bulk and features and things, and it's the only thing in that film that terrified me.
Yeah. It's Annihilation.
Yeah.
It's like a Netflix.
Essentially, there's this mutated creature that basically breathes with the sound of like a woman screaming, and it's absolutely horrifying. It's bad, and it's a brief scene. It's not even a focus of the movie. It's incredible.
Yeah. Cool. CJ, scary movie, something that really resonated with you.
I'd have to go all the way back to the 80s and say Stephen King's It.
Ooh.
Because nothing's really been scary since then.
Yeah. The new one,
Yeah.
It's funny. I love the new one. I love it, but it still wasn't as scary to me as the original. Part of it is Tim Curry is just a scary dude to begin with.
Yes. And then aside from that, like Resident Evil, the VR, that's really scary.
Oh yes, yeah. I've played one similar. I forget the title, but yeah, I couldn't handle it. I was like falling over into my dining table and shit. These zombies are jumping at me.
Yeah,
I
can picture that.
Sub-Zero drop.
That's funny.
Yeah. All right, Nancie.
Get you breathing.
Scary movies.
I'm gonna go with The
Jacob's
Exorcist all the way.
The Exorcist.
It's just that unknown where, they're putting Linda Blair through all these tests and they don't know what's going on, and it's her crying out from the inside, and it's just the whole idea of possession has always been kind of interesting to me. So definitely I'd go with that. Exorcist.
I remember to me the scariest part of that whole movie was the scene where there was just noise in the attic and you didn't know what it was, and there was like once you started barfing up pea soup, I was like, oh, that's my sister after a Saturday night. But I shouldn't say that. Yeah, it was true. But no, yeah, that's cool. So I've got like this whole menu now. Mike, what do you think, man?
Okay, so this one's kind of split. I really enjoy, or I get really creeped out by, rather, like the sort of demonic supernatural horror ones, like The Conjuring or even Paranormal Activity, right? Because you can't combat that. Yeah. That's just
high five on that.
And you can't leave it. But I think the one that gets in my head the most is John Carpenter's The Thing, because that goes back to he's an alien. No, he's not. No, you guys don't get it. He's an alien. I'm not an alien. You're an alien.
I can't convince him yet.
I'm crazy, right? Because I'm trying to convince these guys that this is a problem and nobody will buy in. And that to me is just like, what do you do in that situation?
Until suddenly it's like, and he just grew a tentacle out of his ear. No, it's fine.
Told you. That's Carl. It's just what he does.
Hereditary.
Yeah, the good old tentacle ear Carl.
Did anybody see Jacob's Ladder? So, Mike, going back to your point, Jacob's Ladder was this incredible, like, psychological. Where was it Tim Robbins? Was that him in Jacob's Ladder? Maybe chat knows. he would see, he'd be walking along and kind of watching just this general crowd walking by, and their faces would be all demonic and weird for no reason. And he was completely crazy and out of his mind. Serpent in the Rainbow was another one because it had a scene of a railroad spike going through someone's, jingle bollocks. You're not, but it's true.
I'm gonna die.
I'm gonna have to check that one out.
Yeah. So you said the thing, and
I'm looking it up right now.
Hereditary was another one. You know what freaked me out?
That's
was
a good one.
Yeah, the chick's noise, the thing that she did.
Oh, the little tick. Oh,
No.
yes.
Yeah, I have two daughters they're now grown up, but they both used to creep me the hell out when they were little because they would just stare at you sometimes for no reason. You'd, wake up from a nap sitting in a chair and there'd just be a kid staring at you just emotionless. They're now in mental homes, but
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
no, yeah, but
I wanted to see that actually.
that tick, that's all you need to know. The rest of it gets a little kind of weird, but man, that I can't handle that. Making Midsummer, yeah.
No.
So the chat's getting good. Okay, so we've got some good input there. I think we got some fantastic input there. So, the last theme I need.
Sorry.
Yeah.
I was going to interject with a little side note really quick. I was raised really religious, and I used to have I think it's called what's a sleep paralysis.
Oh shit.
So like I would wake up at like 3 a.m. and I would hallucinate, and my mom would come in and she would sing me hymns to put me back to sleep, and that would shape the things. She would rebuke the darkness and all the other crazy things, right? That people who are trying to comprehend what they don't understand do, and that would shape the hallucination. So that shapes my abject terror of this unknown thing. You know what I mean?
Wow.
So
I love this, and I'm gonna pick at that a little. I'm just gonna tell you.
Go ahead.
That is so crazy. So when you were a kid, like when was the first time that you can remember sort of waking up and being completely paralyzed and freaking out? Like when was that? Do you remember?
I was really heavy in the church at that point, but it would have been when I was about 8 or 9.
Yeah.
So old enough to be able to consciously be aware this shouldn't be happening, and not to be amused by it, but also with the whole dancing Presbyterian thing, the whole, yay.
were you dancing though? I mean, really, were you dancing all the time?
I was getting dragged to it, sure. But it was more of this is terrifying, this is absolutely terrifying because you have to obey this because this is absolutely horrible. And, having the vivid imagination that a kid has, it would shape these terrors that you would see to be like disembodied hands crawling the walls and, the faces of my grandmother morphing and all your things like, oh, God,
Or things grabbing at your feet when you're trying to go to
Yes.
sleep. That's
right.
under the bed.
Yes. So there's in the chat, there's actually a recommendation for you, Steve, which is the movie The Nightmare, which is about sleep paralysis. And I'm not going to watch it because that I think would freak me out really bad. So I'll share with you.
Let's Google it.
Yes.
It's like free therapy. It's like regression therapy, man. Let's go.
Yeah. So my one of the things that really gets me is I think it's related to possession of someone that in particular being overtaken by something that doesn't wasn't there, and it was memories that kind of popped back from when my mom, she actually passed away of brain cancer, right? So she wasn't always herself, and I had this incredible dream. So it's like walking. She was sitting on the edge of her bed. It was like kind of in the morning or something. I'm like walking around to sort of address her from the front and say something like, "Hey, Mom," whatever. And her face was totally different in terms of the being that was inside of her. Right, this is the dream, not the reality. And I was just like, what?
Wait a minute.
Yeah, I was like,
roll.
Mom, what the hell's going on? And in this dream, her jaw went slack and her eyes kind of drooped, and her, she sort of looked up to the whites of her eyes show. And to this day, that's the worst fucking nightmare that I've ever had. And I sometimes get weirded out falling asleep thinking that I might have that dream again. So,
I'm out.
So, yeah, that's awesome. Good. So, the last thing I wanted to talk about, and we can call it and give you guys a little bit of time back, is as a general rule, I think that we need an overarching theme to kind of hold the whole story together. So you have various characters, and you don't know who they're going to be yet. But what's a general walk of life and concept? You know, you've got sort of in these movies, you've got this sort of younger crowd, not like Stephen King's It younger, but, you know, teenagers, older teenagers, kind of 21 years old, something. You've got this sort of law enforcement bunch. You've got sort of researchers. You've got give me some themes that kind of resonate with you from stories that you've seen that you like to have a story around.
So doing a sort of city atmosphere, I like the idea of maybe somebody from a rural town moving to the big city for a particular reason. Maybe it's a career thing, or they're just going to college, or they just had to get away from something in their past, and sort of discovering who they are as a young adult, but also the world around them and how it's really changed. And this sort of like, I don't know, drop in the ocean sort of feeling where you're being surrounded by millions and millions of other people, and you're completely isolated at the same time.
Oh, yeah. Cool. And you've got like, you're going, Mama, I'm just going to go play my banjo. And I just didn't realize how many demons there were in New York. Yeah. I like that.
Yeah, sort of the devil's advocate sort of thing.
Yes. So
no Keanu.
No Keanu. What do you think, Nancie, in terms of like sort of just thinking about some of those sort of memes, if you will, around like you know, law enforcement all kind of discovering some kind of weird situation, or investigators or counselors, like kind of at a high level, what are some themes that really kind of resonate with you for horror movies? What draws you in there?
Well, I'm just going to go back to my glory days when I was doing all the ghost hunting. And
yeah,
I know it sounds silly now, but I like the investigation idea. I like that a lot. You know, as far as there's, you know, like what you said, there's something going on and we have to figure it out. I think that there can be an aspect of, you know, things being hidden, and maybe have some kind of like underground something going on. You know what I'm trying to get at?
No, I get it. I do get it. And
yeah, okay.
I like that aspect. Also, that's scary that you used to do that. I wouldn't do that, because if I saw a ghost, I would actually shit my pants in front of my friends. CJ, what do you think, man? Is you're not Ghostbusters, we know that. You're not going to be Ghostbusters 3. What do you think?
I think we should all be homeless panderers.
That would get
that's weird.
Yeah, see?
We can make that work, right? We could just what are you doing? Oh, just pandering again, you know. A Tremors based campaign. So John is demanding a Tremors based campaign where we focus mostly on was that Kevin Bacon, wasn't it?
It's a graboid.
Metaphorical tremors.
Yeah, aren't they remaking
dark
that?
Demons that they made like 6 of them. I don't know that there's a remake in there anywhere.
Oh wow.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
It's like some kind of like shoot off from that. I think I need to look that up.
That wasn't it. Yeah, there were like 14 of those movies or something, and they're on 6. Yeah. So John is. Are you a fan? Are you a Tremors fan? Do you, John, out there? Do you have like a do you have a T-shirt with some Tremors on it? The inquiring minds want to know. CJ, what do you think, man? So, seriously, homeless panderers? Do you
It'd make it more challenging, or maybe a clergy. So,
okay.
Weird.
Yeah, no, I can see the tie in there. It's funny. I think about homeless panderers. I can see the campaign opens, and I'm like, "What do you do?" And you're like, "I go shit behind them." It's like, I ate some garbage and I go shit behind the traffic cone. It's fine.
We got to do something like,
you know, Mike. I was going to say, I like the idea of sort of being homeless and not having like a safe home to go to, right? Like there is no 4 walls and a roof. You're like, your home is, a tarp over like a dumpster or something like that. Like it's sort of that aspect of like, there is no safety. I think can be really creepy.
Well, in the 80s, they wouldn't have had a lot of social programs or anything like that to actually protect heavily. It would have been more of a cutthroat thing.
Yeah, a lot of drug use, a lot of nasty stuff.
Yeah, downtown Orlando, says the chat. I can dig that. I think that. So what we may wind up with is a weird way to knit you guys together, but I can draw from all those things so far. Steve,
What if I really like the ideas that have been given so far? So to try to glue some of these together, what if it was a, you know how people will commonly associate, for better, truth or otherwise, how the homeless are mentally ill and they can see things. They are schizophrenic. They are hallucinating. They are imagining things. They have these paranoid delusions, these anxious things, whatever labels that we apply so we can ignore what they're saying, right? What if that's not true and they are seeing what's correct? What is there?
What if?
So behind the element of the cult, they can see.
What if one of you? What if one of you made a clergy member, and one of you was a paranormal researcher sort of kind of person, and the rest were homeless, and perhaps somehow involved in something that both the clergy member who was trying to, of course, cure the homelessness issue or whatever it might be, and the researcher or researchers with some kind of relationship there get dragged in because it's getting real. And, Father CJ it's like, oh, damn. What do you think? Something, kind of in that general vein?
I like that idea. And sort of, the homeless ones are privy to something. And it kind of goes right back to that same idea. Like, we're trying to convince the others, like, there is something going on here, and maybe they buy it and maybe they don't, or maybe they don't aren't on board 100%. But we're trying to solve this thing together. And obviously it's much bigger than everybody, and people are sort of pulling back the layers as we go. I like that idea.
I like that a lot. Yeah,
there's some sort of like drug use program or problem, and it's not that. It's a ritual that's used for something. It's a continued legacy. That sort of esoteric shit. So
yeah,
I don't know.
In the late '80s too,
These are fun.
There's like this cocaine situation where someone's kind of crashed.
Dig it.
Yeah.
I dig it.
Okay. Awesome. I think I have ideas, so that's good. I want to take some time to kind of flesh it out. Obviously, the way this plays out is the beginning of the story is what I'm responsible for, and then pretty much every iota of where we go from there, I'm just going to play off the cuff. I think that does the game justice. So there are a couple more housekeeping items, and then we'll call it done for this time, and then we'll schedule character sessions, which I'd like to stream as well, so that the crowd, all 6 of them, can get up to speed with each character creation process, and we can get to know the rules together. Roleplay is first person. It's really important in this game. In D&D, you can get away with saying things like, I tell CJ that I would like to borrow his car. But in the scene, you're standing right next to CJ. So really, it's, I turn to CJ and I say, CJ, I need to borrow your car now. I there's no time to explain, right? So just, that's how this goes. If we don't do it that way, it gets a little tangled and strange. So that's just the only table rule. You won't get in trouble or demerits if you fuck up, or if you say the wrong thing, or if you start laughing or pee your pants, because Steve has a problem with that because of his distended genitalia. That's the only rule. And then the only other thing I would say is come prepared to just kind of go in and help me tell the story. So one example, the actions in this game, as opposed to D&D, like an attack or whatever, they call them moves. And so certain moves, depending on how you roll, have a variety of results, right? So I might ask you to explain how that result works out. So, you're trying to climb up a wall, for example, and you roll a fairly miserable roll. I might ask you, what happens? Right? And then I'm going to ask you to then be realistic, not like, well, I float down gingerly because I have a ring of feather fall. It's got to be real. And then what we'll find is that it's not just game master, it's really all of you kind of weaving your own shit that you make up into the story, and we'll just go with it. Does that make sense?
Absolutely.
Yes, sir.
I think so.
It's the lecture, right? Cool. So who thinks they should go first to make their character?
Not it.
Mike's like,
all in. Yes,
Okay.
please, let's do this.
Yeah. Okay, good. So what I want to do is I'd like to, this is going to be a monthly session, but I'd like to get this closer. If we can do that in the next few days or the next week or so, we'll get that done so that we have in a couple weeks basically all the characters figured out, if that works with you guys.
Yeah.
Okay.
Definitely.
So this is exciting. The PDF is out there. You have read access to it. So do that. Buy the book, of course. Buy 3 of them. You need 3, 1 in each room.
Okay.
Yeah, so we will reconvene as we have opportunities to. But for those of you who have tuned in and given us some feedback in the chat, that's awesome. Please help us spread the word because this is going to get gross. I'm going to end our stream right here.